It seems like only yesterday that I was down in Greensboro watching the Grasshoppers play, but that was the whole way at the end of July, which is a long time ago now. And here we are recapping the 2024 Hopper season, bringing back broadcaster from your Greensboro Grasshoppers, Andy Durham. Andy, how you doing today, sir?
Doing well. I mean, beautiful day outside today. We've had some bad weather recently, so it's good to see that sunshine. So not a bad day at all today. We're doing real well.
Yeah, and I should say to kind of lead off the show a little bit, his thoughts and prayers to everybody, North Carolina, Tennessee, wherever you may be, Anna Maria Island. I mean, there's just way too many to name.
Oh, it's going all over the place. Yeah, in the southeast, it's been rough. Real rough in the mountains of North Carolina, up around the Asheville tourist territory. I bet the old McCormick Field probably got hit pretty hard, I would think.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, sad to see, and that was honestly my first time, like really in that area and spending some time. I got to see a pretty good game. They didn't end up taking the game that I was at. They tried to make a comeback towards the end. Tamar Johnson had a home run. The Grasshoppers finished the first half champions, 39 and 26. Finished the regular season 75 and 55, first place in the West Division, but just couldn't make it out of the playoffs to face Bowling Green. I thought they would have had a good shot at Bowling Green because, Andy, the last series of the season, the Hoppers took 5 of 6 from Bowling Green. So
That's right.
I was kind of looking
That's right.
forward to that series again.
Yeah, I think they would have had a good chance. I think Bowling Green knocked off Hudson Valley to win it all, so I think Greensboro could have taken Bowling Green.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. And I'm going to look at some numbers here just for everybody that's, they don't have to do it themselves. They were, and this is in the Sally League, they were second in OPS. They were ninth out of 12 in average. That was a 224 average. So they weren't
Mm-hmm.
really hitting for average, but hit for OPS.
Yeah.
Second in strikeouts, first in home runs. They had some offensive power going on.
Yeah, the home run barrage was big, especially it's about three-fourths of the season. All those home runs they were hitting, and kind of cooled off, tailing off some at the end of the year. But I thought they played well, and I thought Mitch Jebb had a great season. I thought he might have been my MVP if I had to choose one. I might just go ahead and choose Mitch Jebb, who was there with them the entire season, because he really started showing the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season. He showed me a lot because he was really hitting the ball well. Stolen bases. He had 40 stolen bases, in RBI. I mean, that's pretty interesting there. 40 stolen bases, over 40 and over 40 RBI for the season. And I thought he did a heck of a job. I liked his defense. I just liked his head first slides and overall hustle. I'm very impressed with that.
Yeah, and he definitely did get out to a little bit of a slow start at the beginning of the season. I mean, I think that happened to a few players. I mean, and for them to be able to, put up the record they did is very commendable. And Tamar Johnson is another guy who kind of got off to a slow start and then really started to turn things around, end up getting the promotion to Altoona.
Yeah, I think I liked about him were the number of walks he was able to draw, plus the number of runs he scored. I think those were two big pluses for him. And he got the promotion, like you're saying. I think Jack Brannigan, if he'd played the entire season, I think Jack Brannigan probably would have got a promotion too. He had those injuries, kept knocking him down, knocking him back, and they were glad to get him back at the end of the year, but still he wasn't his full self he was back in his better days.
Yeah, and that's very frustrating for a player that you want to see play and you want to see what they can do, and then for the injury bug to kind of bite them. It's definitely frustrating. Hopefully, he can have a healthy year next year. And we're talking about a team, like I said, that was able to kind of maintain their winning ways throughout the entire season with the promotions, with the injuries, and even with some trades along the way too.
Yeah, the Charles McAdoo trade kind of changed things. Once he got called up and he got traded, that changed a lot in the system. And then there were some other trades along the way also. But I think all in all, like you said, the Grasshoppers had a very good year. Had a lot of new players, had some guys from the previous season come in. But Sean Ross, I think Sean Ross is another guy who had a solid year. I think he had 23 home runs or plus for the season. And I thought he did well for the team the entire year.
Yeah, and the other part here is that, I mean, the pitching staff, because I mean I've kind of talked about the stadiums around the Sally League that can be No, a little bit difficult on pitchers at times. Like I said, my first time being there, and kind of just sitting there talking to my son about like that short porch out in left field. A couple of the hits that were had, they look like pop ups that guys were going to sit under, and they kind of find their way into the stands. But overall, I mean, I looked at it here. The team ERA was fifth in the league, a 3.84 ERA. The league average is 4.08. The WHIP, walks and hits per innings pitched, which is something I look at a lot, is 1.257. That was fourth. They were also third in like the least amount of walks in the league, 479. So I mean, the pitching staff, the way they were able to perform, I think also kind of kept them in some games.
Yeah, and had a kid late in the season. He came up. He got called up, I think, from Bradenton. This Carlson Reed had a near perfect game going on. 6 and 30 innings of perfect baseball. I think that was against the Bowling Green in that last series when Hoppers took 5 of 6 from the Hot Rods. He had a heck of a game that night. He was pitching extremely well, and Hoppers had a couple homers to win that game 2-1. But that Carlson Reed put in some good work there at the end of the year.
Yeah, he definitely did, and I push him a little bit, Andy, because one thing I don't think you know about me is I'm a West Virginia baseball fan and have been my entire life. They wore the same colors as my high school baseball team, so it was an easy transition there. So it's a guy I definitely kept an eye on. A lot of other guys, talking about like trades, you had a Patrick Riley trade, which is a little bit of a surprise. But I just kind of wanted to, I mean, we've talked about, a decent amount of players here. Is there any other, let's go on the hitting side. Were there any other hitters outside of Ross and McAdoo and Tamar and Mitch that kind of stuck out to you throughout the season?
Well, as time went on, they picked him up a little later in the year. That Omar Alfonso was a pretty good power hitter. His first game, he had he went 4 for 4, driven in about 4 runs. He just had a great start. He cooled off a little. He came back into the season, hit a couple of decent home runs too. I was kind of impressed with him late in the year.
Yeah, and I know I listened back to our preview to kind of see some guys that we were looking out for, and I know Nick Samillo was a guy that you were hoping would come back, and he did come back, and performed very well.
Yeah, he did. He got called up. That was a good move for him. But Josiah Seidler didn't give us quite as much as we were looking for, possibly. But wish we could have seen more from him. But Nick Samillo definitely, when he got back off the injured list, got in there on a regular day-to-day basis, he was hitting the ball extremely well. And I'm just glad, happy for him to get called up like he did.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is, I mean, obviously, as a Greensboro broadcaster, and there's Greensboro fans, just like I talk about. I'm a fan of the Altoona Curve because they were the closest team to me. There's people that go to Altoona games that the one guy I always talk to is a Milwaukee Brewers fan, but he's an Altoona Curve fan, and it is kind of tough to see those guys move up. But I mean, that's honestly a testament to how good the coaching staff did, and a new coaching staff.
Right, brand new coaching staff working together for the first time. The pitching coach was a former college coach. He'd been in college baseball his entire career. Came up, did well there, and I thought they did real good. I thought it's kind of interesting too. Blake Butler was the skipper this year. He was a local guy out of Southeast Guilford County. We talked about that before, but interesting this year. I guess it's maybe happened before. I never saw it before, but that what they're doing now, they actually give the coaches a week off. If they like to take a vacation, they get a week's vacation during the season. So he was gone for about a week. I said, what in the world's going on? He's gone. What's happening? Where's he at? But they do get, if they want to take that week off, they take a week off during the season. It's interesting.
That's definitely something I'd never heard of. I mean, Andy, you're breaking news here. It's something, but here's the thing: is I mean, that's probably good for
it is probably good, yeah.
For some, and
when I first heard about it, I said, gosh, I think about Earl Weaver, Sparky Anderson. Back in those days, those guys, I could never see those guys take a week off ever in their entire life. They probably worked the entire year. And guys like Jack McKeon back in the old days. But anyway, I think it's probably good mentally for the guy to get away too sometimes, get a break.
Yeah, and especially, like I said, I went on summer vacation, and Greensboro game was part of my summer vacation. And if you're a baseball player, baseball coach, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of time. And then we have a guy, your bench coach is actually, was it Casey Harms is out in Arizona right now, hitting coach for the Scottsdale Scorpions, the Arizona Fall League team that the Pirates were sent to, the Pirates prospects.
Yeah, and Casey took over at third base. He was coaching at third base most of the season toward the end because Blake Butler was doing more his work from the dugout, and Casey over at first base had the other coach over at first base. So they had a pretty good setup going there.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's really good to see. And Greensboro.
I forget the guy's name. Ethan Goforth, the first base coach. I think he's a catcher's coach. Ethan Goforth. He was coaching at first base, and he did a very good job along with Casey at third. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, Ethan is a former. He came up through the Pirate system. I think he had done some coaching in the DSL, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, it's like when we're talking about like a new coaching staff and stuff, it definitely was. But I want to go to the pitchers a little bit. Like you mentioned a Carlson Reed. I brought up Patrick Riley, a few other guys. But is there anybody that you think maybe flew under the radar or that you just kind of just want to point out and give some kudos to? I mean, I know you would want to give it to the whole pitching staff if you could, but just a couple of guys to pinpoint here.
Yeah, the guy I like the most is the guy you mentioned earlier, Patrick Riley. I was really impressed with his work all season long. I really thought he was Hopper's top starter at home through most of the year. But I really impressed with the job he did. And J.P. Massey had some ups and downs. He had some stops. And the kid, the Nielsen kid, I always call him Nielsen. Some people call him Nelson. I always call him Nielsen because of Gifford Nielsen and Brigitte Nielsen and Harry Nielsen, all the Nielsens. Plus Gifford was at BYU back in the quarterbacking days of the Cougars. So Cy Nielsen, always liked the work he did. Then he got called up, so we lost him. But, yeah, I thought we had some pretty good stoppers, pretty good workers this year.
Yeah, and we had, I think when I was down there,
another guy too before we leave, the long fences guy, because he came in late in the season with Brayton. Bigger kid, stocky body. He was pretty consistent. Had some very bright moments. This guy, Garrett McMillan.
That is another name. I got to see who I wanted to see. One of the guys I wanted to see while I was down there, and that's Alessandro Urcolani. That guy has some electric stuff.
Yeah, because he was a starter at the beginning of the season. They put him in the bullpen. He was like a second starter when he came in the game. Going to give you maybe 3, could give you 4 innings if necessary.
Yeah, and he's a young kid, and I always forget what the name of the province or a country that he's from.
It's a tough one right there. Yeah, it is.
It's I think it's San Diego or San. Oh my God, it's going to drive me nuts, and people are going to be all through my mentions on X as to what it is, and I usually have it at the top of my head because people say he's Italian, and I'll be like, no, he's not Italian. He's might be on the within the country of Italy, but he's not an Italian.
I think he's one of the few guys in the country he's from to ever come out of there and play baseball, professional baseball. Very few come out of there.
Yeah, definitely a very interesting mix, and I was glad to be able to make it down there. I'm hoping. I think we're planning on going back down to Myrtle Beach again. The family enjoyed it, and I definitely am hoping to stop and see the Grasshoppers again. Hopefully this time see a win. The thing that my mom was happiest about, I got to mention this because my mom does listen to my podcast. She has no idea what I'm talking about. She follows the Pirates, so she knows some of that stuff. But she liked your guys' fireworks show that you brought it out onto the field and put up the fireworks show there.
Yeah, man, it's a fast-paced fireworks show, but I tell you what, it's a rapid fire, but it's a good show. It sure is.
Yeah, it definitely was, and like I said, Andy, I appreciate you hopping back on the show, and I guess that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
Before I leave, I just pulled another guy. This Mike Walsh kid came in late in the season. I was kind of impressed with the work he did too. Mike Walsh, going to give him a shout-out here tonight or today.
Yeah, and if anybody listens to my minor league news and brews here, I had mentioned Mike Walsh a couple times, how well he was pitching. He's a relief pitcher down in Bradenton, and then kind of continued that up in Greensboro. And like I said, the numbers for the Greensboro staff, I mean, they just look good across the board. So it's not something you can really complain about. It's not something, like I said, you don't want to completely judge numbers because a lot of times the things that the coaches and stuff are doing behind the scenes, it's more than just the numbers, but it is good to see them be able to produce in a place like Greensboro, which people have said is not a very, very pitcher friendly park.
Yeah, one thing about it too, we talked about Carlson Reed. He almost had that flirted with that no-hitter in the perfect game. Had such a great outing that time against Bowling Green. Somebody asked me about that. I remember a guy who pitched something close to that over the years. took me a while, but I thought back to this one kid. Last game of the regular season, about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 2, 3 years ago, was a kid named Justin Mice. He's now, I think, with Double A or Triple A. Justin Mice had a heck of a game on Sunday. That was always the Mice man. I'll never forget that guy, Justin Mice. It brought back memories of him when we had that game by Carlson Reed.
Yeah, and Justin Mice he's a local boy from up here near Pittsburgh, so that's a name that gets mentioned, at times, from the Pittsburgh media and from the local media, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be ties. There's always going to be fun. But, everybody, like I said, go out and follow the Greensboro Grasshoppers. If you can, get out to a game. And like I said, once again, thoughts and prayers to everybody that's down in that area. And once again, Anna Maria Island, as they're bracing for it looks like another storm coming through.
Yeah, another mention too, I guess, is you give a mention to Ben. You may be familiar with Ben on MILB.com. He was in town the same weekend I think you were. He came by the press box and he did a little interview, and then he went down and did some stuff, checked out some of the food at the ballpark, and looked around, did kind of a survey, and then wrote a story about that at MILB.com later on. So shout out to Ben. I can't remember Ben's last name completely automatically, but Ben came in and did a heck of a job.
I think that's Ben Hill. I think is who that would be.
Hill, you got it right on top. Ben Hill, yes sir. Top of the hill, Ben Hill.
Yeah, because the thing is, I listen to the MLB Pipeline show from time to time, and they have him on there. And to tell you the truth, I didn't even know he did that. So I'm going to go back and look at that story. And for anybody that follows me on X or Facebook or whatever it would be, I will reshare that. Give Ben some kudos, and I know he has a guest taster. I wish I would have known he was there because I tasted some pretty good food down there. I had some sort of slaw dog or something. I loved it.
Yeah, he talked about the food. He had a guest. I thought that guest tasted when he fed him. I thought it might have been you possibly, but then, somebody else turned out to be. But, yeah, the food is good, and I guess you had the slaw dog and a few other things when you were there maybe.
Yep, I had a slaw dog, and I did have a beer, and my mom had her first corn dog. I don't know how she made it this far in life that I've let her go that far without having a corn dog. But here's the thing: is she had a corn dog there, and then we went down and saw the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, and she had another corn dog.
Not bad, 2 corn dogs on the same trip. That's good stuff.
That is good stuff. And Andy, you take it easy, sir, and I will. I'll be talking to you. We're gonna before you know it, it's gonna be time to preview the season.
Won't be long. It goes pretty quick. You're exactly right about that.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer. Let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
Once again, a big thank you to Andy Durham for jumping back on the show. This one's going to be just a little bit of a shorter one, but we have 2 coming out today. I did remember that I had a craft beer. I can't believe that I forgot that I had a craft beer. I had talked about, the beers that I drink during the Steeler game or parties or whatever, and what I would have in my fridge. I don't know why I forgot about this, but my neighbor Joe, he gave me a Victory Motel Paloma. It is a season pass series. It is a grapefruit summer ale from Victory Brewing. I'm not a big fan of any types of like fruited beers unless it's like, a hazy IPA that has a little bit of citrus in it or something like that. But this one was a very refreshing beer. Only had one of them in between a couple icy lights. I'm going to give this one a 4.25, I would say. Knock that up to 4.50, 6%. Once again, the Motel Paloma Grapefruit Summer Ale from Victory. And until next time, everybody, let's go Scottsdale Scorpions. I mean, why not? One more time, let's go Hoppers.